host Keith Andrew. That's right, you're watching the Keith Andrew Network. That's available on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and all social media. So we have a great guest. You're going to hear from him when we come back from this commercial break. But the first thing I want to tell everyone is thank you for watching the Keith Andrew Network. Thanks to you, we did 13 seasons. We did over 1,209 episodes. That being said, I wanted to take this time. That being said, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to jump right into the interview. It's season 13, episode 9, also known as 1209. I'm here with a great guest. It's great to see you again. You look like you're in great health, and it's wonderful to catch up with you for almost 5 years?
It's been a while. It seems like a lot of stuff has happened in this past 5 years, not just to me, but to you, and congratulations on hitting such a great milestone in terms of number of episodes for your what do you call this, a podcast or a video blog? What are you calling?
I'm a little of everything, to be honest. I call it a talk show, but people refer to it as a podcast.
Yeah, a talk show. I think that kind of encompasses everything. So, but anyway, it's great to see you again. Like we did an interview. I'm trying to think of what I've done since. I mean, I have the strangest CV of anybody around. I'll just kind of rehash a little bit about my background. I grew up in Texas. I have a couple of degrees in music and vocal performance. I was an opera singer, and then I was a college voice teacher for a couple of decades. And I taught in Texas and in Iowa. And then in 2013, I moved with my wife here to Connecticut. We're based in New Haven, Connecticut, where my wife works for Yale University, which is just an awesome place. It's like she works at Hogwarts. And I've been lucky enough to do a lot of performing work here. So I've done some singing, I've done some acting, I've done some films, I've done a few commercials, and I've also done an awful lot of Christmas work. Your viewers can probably tell I look a little bit like Santa Claus. So if you watch Hallmark movies or Lifetime movies, you might just see me as a background Santa waving at the camera. But I do other things besides that too. That's just kind of a strange part of my performing life. What questions do you have for me today?
Oh, I have a lot. But you mentioned something about your life, and I do want to ask you, but I do want to talk to you about the first subject, and that's first subject's talking about breaking the glass ceiling. So when you started becoming a professional actor, how did you break that glass ceiling? And the second part of that question, the reason I mentioned your wife, you mentioned education. With everything going around with the education in the schools and colleges, how does that affect both of you?
Well, the first part of that question, what was the first part of that question again?
How did you break the glass ceiling?
I don't know if I have ever broken the glass ceiling, but I do feel like I have been incredibly lucky as a performer. And since moving here in 2013 to Connecticut, I've shifted from teaching, and that's mainly what I was doing back in the Midwest, to performing. And I've been incredibly lucky. And when I'm not working, I always feel a little guilty, like I'm being lazy. But colleagues and friends of mine, actor friends, performer friends, are always like, wow, you work so much. How do you do it? And I'm always like, do I work that much? And I think I'm lucky enough that I have. Uh, I've just fallen into a lot of really good jobs. In the past 5 years, I've been doing, in addition to the Santa work, I've been doing some music theater and some opera. I worked for a little opera company here in New England, and I was hired to replace someone who was fired. And kind of at the last moment, I played the old man, actually a bunch of old men parts in the musical Evita. And I loved this little company that I worked for, and the man who owns it is also a performer. And he was like, "Hey, do you want to do this part?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And it steamrolled from there, and I started doing production work for this little company, which is based in Madison, Connecticut. And they're unusual that they do an opera, a musical, a play, and then some sort of concert venue in their season. So I I related with this guy. I mean, we both had operatic backgrounds, and I spoke his language of, opera and theater. So I started falling into doing props and stage managing and lighting. I was kind of the uh, practical, like, oh, George will do it. So I did like about 5 years working with this company, and I sang a lot. In fact, the last big operatic role I did was in a production of Mice and Men, which is based on a John Steinbeck novel, but it's an operatic setting too. And it was the hardest thing I have ever had to learn. And I mean, I had to go through the music every day on my own before I went to rehearsal, just so I could sing it. It was so hard, and just musically, it was just all over the place. And I was talking with one of the other performers, the soprano, and she said exactly the same thing. She's like, I have to go over this every day. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, it is so hard. And it it was a great acting challenge because I played the old man in the story. If you've never heard the story before, it's a story of a man who has a friend who uh, has some special needs. He's taking care of this guy. It's probably set during the Depression, although that's never specified. And he's taking care of this friend, but this friend has a violent streak. Even though he doesn't realize it, the man himself, he accidentally kills someone and accidentally kills a few animals. And well, I played an old man whose dog is like ancient, and the other is set on a farm, and all the other farmhands are like, "You have to put that dog down," and it wrecks this character. So I had to crawl on the floor on my stomach across the stage while I was crying. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do this. And people were like, oh my gosh, that was so moving. I'm like, yes. People were like, you made me cry. And I'm like, yes, I did my job. But it was a great job. I helped produce a number of musicals and operas and plays. And my best story from this little company is we were doing a ghost opera by an English composer named Benjamin Britten, and it's based on the O. Henry story, The Turn of the Screw. That's also the name of the opera. So it's an opera about a governess who comes in to take care of two children, and the previous governess has died, and a servant of their uncle, they're orphan kids, and the servant of their uncle has died, and she comes to find out that the ghosts of these two people that have died are after the children. So it's a scary haunted house story and opera. So we were doing this opera in this historical old farmhouse here in Connecticut that was built in the 18th century. I mean, it is very old, and it's supposed to be haunted. Now, I do not believe in ghosts, but it's supposed to be haunted. Never had any problem. So one day I am hanging lights, which is, you couldn't really hang lights. I was adjusting lights that this place already had up because you couldn't put anything on the wall. And we were doing it inside this old house, and every scene in the opera took place in a different room. So we would, and the opera had like a scene, and then the orchestra would play by itself, and it was always enough time to move the audience to a different room for a different scene. So I'm hanging lights one day. I'm the only one there, and my boss comes by because he really likes to have lunch and discuss how the production's going. So he came in. He had a set of keys for this historic house. I had the other set of keys. There were only two sets of keys to this house. And you had to come in through, there was a little kitchen and an office and two bathrooms that were modern. And then you had to step through this firewall or fire door into the historic house. So he's like, let's go to lunch. And I could not find my keys. I mean, and it was a big ring of keys, and I put my car keys on it. And I couldn't find him. I was the only person there. And he's like, well, we know they're here because you're in the house and you're working. So we looked in every room, although I had only been in one room. Couldn't find them. He's like, well, we know they're here. Let's go to lunch. So we went to lunch, locked up, set the security code. And mind you, my keys are in the house somewhere. He has the only remaining set of keys. We go to lunch, we come back. He sets the security code, unlocks the door. The door to this modern kitchen opens up, and my keys are sitting in the middle of the floor. And we would have had to step over them to exit this. So I don't believe in ghosts, but I also can't explain the story of how the keys got into the middle of that floor. So that's my ghost story. So, but that was a fun job. I did that for like about 5 years. And all the while I kept performing, and I kept doing Christmas work. And I had a Santa agent who is this really interesting guy who had been a Ringling Brothers clown, but he had a business that supplied Christmas decorations to non-Disney theme parks and municipalities and like zoos and things like that. So if a town set up a big Christmas display, this is the guy they probably got the decorations from. So he got me. I was at Six Flags New England for about 4 years. I was their resident Santa. Great job. It's right on the Massachusetts-Connecticut border. I loved working there. I worked at Radio City as not the Santa on stage at Radio City, but I was a photograph Santa where people could sit in Santa's lap and get their pictures made. And that was fun. I was at the Nordstrom's flagship store in New York City, right off of Central Park and Columbus Circle. That was an amazing, fun thing. That was just a couple of years ago. And I did a few commercials. I flew to Mexico to do a series of commercials for a big resort of like 14 hotels and 9 golf courses and swimming pools and everything. So Santa got to go and film a series of commercials about what Santa does after Christmas. And evidently he goes to Mexico. So it was a nice week's vacation at the hottest time of the year in Mexico. But they had pictures of Santa doing everything on this resort, like playing golf and going down the water slide. And it was the week that ended the summer in Mexico. It was the week before all the school systems started back up again. So it was packed. I mean, there were families there were a ton of kids there. And so we were doing this shoot with a drone where Santa comes down this water slide. because they had this big Aztec pyramid water slide. And anytime you film, they're going to take 18 different shots of you doing the same thing. So I had to go down this water slide like 18 times, which is okay. But they had to hold the line for all these kids that were riding. And at first they were like, who is this old man? Why does he get to go and cut the line? And then they would start going, huh, he looks like Santa Claus. And then they would hear me ho, ho, ho down the water slide. And finally, at the very end, they were going, Santa, Santa, and kind of egging me on. It was great. It was a great gig. And so I keep doing stuff like that. I did a Honda commercial for a dealership in New York. What else? I perform with the New Haven Symphony here for their Christmas concerts, which is always fun. And I also I'm turning into the regular Santa at the Carousel Museum in Bristol, Connecticut, which is this really interesting, really strange museum of carousel figures. And they have like 1,000 carousel, not just horses, but all these other figures. And they do restoration work on historical carousels. And they do a big Christmas party every year. So I've been doing that, and that's been amazingly fun. But off of the Christmas stuff, I'll have to tell you that recently I've turned into the old man that people call to take a role in a show when someone either gets fired or dropped out. So I did the show Little Shop of Horrors, which is a musical, and I played Mr. Mushnick, who owns the florist where it all happens. And somebody had to drop out, and I had 5 rehearsals to learn everything and then do the performance. And it was just like, oh, and I'm a fairly quick study, but this was nerve-wracking. And then before that, I had done the same thing with a production of Fiddler on the Roof. And again, somebody else like had to drop out. And so they contacted me, and I got to play Laser Wolf. Or as the wife of one of my friends in the show said, Linzertort. It's like, oh, he's playing Linzertort in Fiddler on the Roof. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what you want to call it. Sounds like we were doing the Nutcracker instead. And then I did a production of Elf where I actually played Santa Claus in a musical, but I auditioned for that. That was great fun. And I did a play called Nuts, which is a play. It's a very serious play about sexual abuse, and the main character is a woman who'd gone through. She had been sexually abused. She had become a prostitute, and she killed a customer in self-defense because he was beating her up. And so her family wanted her to claim to be nuts so she could take a plea of insanity. And she was like, no, absolutely not. I'm in complete control of my mind and everything. But it was an interesting question on like guilt and abuse, and it was really serious. And I got to play the judge. So I was there on stage the whole time all of this was going on. And my job, I mean, I had dialogue, I had lines, but most of it was to react with what was going on. And it was very easy to react to such a serious subject. So I've just been leading a really charmed life here in Connecticut. Working when I can. There, of course, with actors, there are periods where you're not working and you get a little like, oh my gosh, I don't have a job. And I joke that every show I do at this point, I'm like, is this going to be my last show? Is this going to be the last performance I ever do? And everyone's that way. It's like, oh my God, I'm never going to. But I have a musical coming up this summer here in Connecticut that I'm looking forward to. And I'm doing a film up in New Hampshire that a friend that I'd done another couple of films with, and he wrote this script, and he's like, "You are perfect for this role." So I'm going up to New Hampshire for a couple of weeks this summer to film this movie up there. So that should be a lot of fun. And that's my life right
Oh,
now.
perfect. We do have about 7 minutes left, but I do want
Oh,
to do a quick plug real fast. Tonight, it's Friday Night SmackDown available on the USA Network. We are 24 hours away from WrestleMania 41. This is the last year of John Cena being an active wrestler. So make sure to hear from John Cena 24 hours before WrestleMania. Also, tomorrow will be the Hall of Fame. So many great people going to be inducted. One of those people you would hear from is Triple H. You know, he came a long way. Are you a Triple H fan?
of course. But like I didn't know John Cena was still wrestling.
Yeah, this is his last thing. I think it's a good idea.
He's get I don't want to ever say that John Cena is getting old, but I think for professional wrestlers he might be getting up there in years. I wish I was built like John Cena. Of course, I'm not. I'm built like Santa Claus. Oh
But
well.
he came up with the idea of the farewell tour, where
Uh-huh.
people say, "Cool, one more match, one more run, just come back one more time for a whole year," and
Yeah.
just excuse the pun, put the nail in the coffin. So like he gave
Oh.
people what they wanted because it isn't just one more match.
Oh,
Okay, great match. Can you do one more? Can you do
oh my
one
God.
more? Can you do? So if you do like a whole year's worth, it makes more sense. But
That is a
also,
burly year. I mean, that is must be exhausting. But he's one of the best. You can't beat him. You literally can't beat him. I don't think.
absolutely agree. Now, also tonight will be in memory of Andre the Giant. There will be a battle royal. Will the winner will receive the annual Andre the Giant trophy. Also, we will
Wow.
hear from LA Knight and Fatu. They will fight for the United States Championship. All that on the USA Network. But with that being said, with the last 5 minutes, you mentioned you were on Lifetime, and he did so many great programs and movies.
Oh, I was a Santa in the background. I mean, I'm like when you play Santa Claus in a movie, you basically are scenery. So I'm not someone that's going to be listed in the credits, but oh yeah, I got to do a movie with Dean Cain, who played Superman back in the '90s, I think it was, and I got to do a movie filmed here in New Haven and along the shoreline, Connecticut, that had Christopher Lloyd and Leah Thompson from Back to the Future, and it was kind of amazing to see them in this Christmas movie. It's like, there's Christopher Lloyd. I'm standing right next to him. How awesome, you know? So
Let me
it,
ask you, do you still keep in touch with any of them?
oh, no, no, no. Like I said, I was background. I did not have dialogue with any of them. I was basically hired for a look and a costume. And so, no, when you are background, you do not bother the stars. Like, they're too busy on a movie set for you to have a casual conversation. And that's one of the best things I learned in acting classes. When you're an actor, your job is to say your line and nothing else. You don't give opinions, you don't give suggestions. You are there to say your line, and that is the only thing you're there for, because there's no time to waste, because it's going boom, 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 because time is money in the movie and the television uh, uh, industry too. So, but no, 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 no. I did not form fast friendships with any of them, but I'm there. But the thing is, when you're a Santa Claus, there are a lot of other guys that look just like you too.
Pretty much like a dime up a dozen, right?
I don't know. I don't know if it's worth a dime, but there are a lot of us. One of my COVID projects is I started the New York City Santas association with a couple of friends because there wasn't one in New York. And we were part of an organization called the International Brotherhood of Real Bearded Santas. And they did not have a New York City chapter. So we started one, and that was our COVID project. And it's still going strong, that chapter. So that was kind of a fun COVID thing. And we did a lot of Zoom meetings back then, which is weird to see 50 guys that look like this.
Would be pretty funny about.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
But I do have a couple questions for you off
Okay.
the air. But with that being said, I want you to be brutally honest because this is not the first time you've been on my show before. So I want you to be brutally honest. When I first approached you to come back for a second time, what made you say yes, and how do you feel now?
Uh, I was incredibly flattered that you were. Well, I was incredibly flattered the first time, uh, and like to be able to come back and do a second show, and especially one that hits a milestone number. I was incredibly flattered. So of course I'm not going to miss that chance. And every old man's dream is to sit and talk about himself. So you have answered one of my dreams. You've given me a platform to talk about myself for 20 or 30 minutes. So thank you. It's like an early Christmas present. But I also really, the main thing is I wanted to see how you have like kept improving the show and how it's gotten bigger and better, and like your professionalism is gone way up, and I'm very proud of you for it's not easy to keep something like this going. So kudos and congratulations to you for keeping it going and doing so well at it.
No, I appreciate it. Now, real fast, I know we're going overtime, but I'll give you an extra 2 minutes. You didn't really answer the question, but if someone will answer in the comments, is like he asked about education, but he kind of dodged it. How does that affect you? You don't have to answer, but I'm just wondering how does that affect you?
um of course, like education was my job for so many years, and I think you have to, like, education is so important. And things are changing right now. It's kind of scary, but you have if you have a family, if you have children, grandchildren, education's the most important thing you can do. And I still take classes. I hope I will never stop learning. uh is every time I do a job, uh I feel like everything I've learned from everything I've done in the past is helping the job that I am doing at this time. So I don't think if you're active at anything, whether it's acting or singing or wrestling or art or baking, like, you never stop learning. You'd never want to do the same thing over and over and over again. So education's the most important thing I think you can do for yourself and encourage somebody else too.
Absolutely. I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping up, this will be shared on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Our goal is to reach 500 more views. If you ever have any more projects that you would like to promote, you're more than welcome to be a guest.
Thank you.
If you know anyone, pass them my way. I am 800 people short of our goal of 2,000. So
Oh, wow.
I'm always
Okay.
looking for people. But with that being said, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest.
Oh, thank you. The privilege and honor is mine. Thank you so much for asking me to come back. I really appreciate it. And I know a bunch of weird people. So I will definitely send your invitation along to a lot of other people.
Oh, absolutely. I do want to talk to you off the air, but wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege. And until we meet again, I catch you later. Thank you and have a good night.